There we go.
Oh, there you go.
What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
Peace, man. Thanks for joining us.
Peace, man. Nice to meet you guys.
Likewise, my brother. I've been following you for a while, and we want to pick your brain. This is episode 20 of the After Party, giving you a little insights on what we do. Again, Sector 3, Save the Hip Hop Culture. Brother Tamal, carrying the culture. What we do is we obviously represent the elements, and we try to shed light and preserve the elements and keep them going, right? That's what we're talking about. So this is the After Party. Obviously, we want to get into details with you. Episode 20, and we're going to jump right into it. So I appreciate you even taking the time to, one, to acknowledge the fact that, we wanted to have you on, two, to actually accepting.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we'll jump right into it. I mean, let's start here, right? There's in hip hop these days, we've talked about this several times on other shows. When people say hip hop, right, by default, hip hop is just a genre of music, right, for a lot of people. And even us, when I say hip hop, sometimes I'm like, oh, you hear that? I'm into hip hop, right? I'm into rap music, right? Not a lot of people say rap music these days. But in terms of D Styles, in terms of you, where did it all start for D Styles and hip hop?
Man, first I got into b-boying, and then from there it led to graffiti, and from there it led to DJing. I never really tried to rap, man. To be honest, I knew I wasn't good at rapping, and so I never tried it. But I was always pretty decent at DJing, so I just basically stuck with it. And I've always loved graffiti. I've done it off and on, and I've done my work as far as bombing goes.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I love scratching. Like, to me, that's like my first love right there. So I really got into scratching, and then I got into DJing, and then I got into making beats and stuff. And,
so just to confirm, if we're going to do a timeline, you said b-boy, graffiti, DJing, and as a whole?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
So did you want I got a ton of questions. My brother Tamal has a ton of questions too. So we're going to try to cram them all up and not go, all over the place. But was there a specific crew you were down with? Were you rolling solo and just on the b-boy tip, or?
Oh, as far as b-boying?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like junior high, and it wasn't like a serious crew. It was just a bunch of friends. So I didn't really take it that far. Like,
all right.
I wasn't really battling or nothing like that.
So what would you say, like, graph wise? I mean, like, how much of a impact was that for you? Because I mean, it's funny when you said graphs and b-boy, I'm like, because that's how I came into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Before the MC stuff. So like when were you writing? Like, I mean, how like, was that like a big thing for you, or did it?
It was big enough that that like we would go bombing on the freeway, hit up trains, but I was never as good as like the guys in my area. There were cats that I went to school with, King 157. He was killing it way back in the day, and still killing it till today. And then of course, like the whole TDK, like Dream and all them. So I mean,
yes.
those guys were my heroes. I was never at that level. You know what I mean? I was always just a one or two color throw up kind of guy. You know what I mean?
I think it's interesting how like we talk to so many people, and it's like everyone's like a lot of people did a few different participate in a few of the elements, and then you kind of just figure it out what you're good at and rock with that. It's the same happened with with a lot of people. I think that's just
right.
thing there.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
It's hard. You think about like you said, right? So Tamal, carrying the culture again. Tamal had Inspect the Deck on his show the other day.
Yeah.
And Deck was like, yeah, I used to do graffiti. and it's crazy to see, especially these days, right? I mean, we came up in a different era. We're the 80s, 90s. So even myself, right? I dabbled in the b-boy stuff. I did the graffiti stuff, did a little bit of DJ, but my thing was more like MCing, writing, and graffiti. But it's crazy to think like our generation or our era was, we all kind of did a little bit of everything. So it's super dope for me to hear, especially with you saying you started as a b-boy, graph, and then you did so you mentioned, let me ask you this. You mentioned Skratch and then DJing. So there's certain DJs, right? I mean, you have your party DJs, you have your battle DJs. DJ Disc just came out and confirms, like, you know, I'm just a scratch DJ, right? So when you say scratching and then full on DJ, was that how you started? Was just like, let me just scratch and then get into the actual technicality of blending records and all that?
Yeah, straight up, because I only had one turntable and one mixer. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's really what I would do. I would buy records, I would record it on tape, and then I would play that tape through the mixer, and then I would just scratch over the beats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, then I was able to learn how to mix. You know, because back then you would just borrow someone's other turntable or whatever. And then you know, like I got into doing like house parties, and then eventually, like I got into like DJ battles, and that's when it kind of took over. Like when I found out about DMC battles, when I found out about the X-Men, you know, Rock Raider, Rob Swift, guys like that, you know what I mean? Then it was like a whole nother world that pretty much took over. And at that point, I basically forgot about graffiti and b-boy and all that stuff, and I just focused on DJing and scratching, battling.
Yeah.
All right, so that's basically where you found the passion for that DJ stuff.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Yep.
Set the tone for us then, year wise, because I mean I have a question, but I wanna work up to it, and I think it'll plan out here. In terms of when you realize, all right, this, you know, I'm doing the graffiti stuff, I'm doing the b-boy stuff, but this DJ stuff is really blowing up. Set the tone in terms of year and area, or geographical location, if you will, for those that don't know.
I would say, what year was that? 93. I went to New York to the new music seminar with my boy Shortcut.
Shout out to Shortcut. All right.
Yeah, he went to go battle there, and that's when I actually got to meet my heroes. You know what I mean? Like Rock Raider, X-Men, all those guys, and I actually got to see a real battle up live and close. You know, like it was just so dope to go to New York. That was my first time going to like Rocksteady, you know, and just seeing people in the flesh. You know what I mean? And that just made me feel like I was a part of something. You know what I mean? And yeah, like it was always my dream to like be able to go and just meet your heroes. You know what I mean? So I think from then on, like I really took it serious. Like I'm actually living this life, you know what I mean? And I can actually do this. But it wasn't until probably like 96, 97 that I actually was able to like go like international and like do like a real show, like a paid show, you know what I mean? Because everything up to that point was basically free. So I think my first international show was in Calgary, Canada.
Wow.
And you know, just being able to like get a passport and fly, and it just really feels like legit, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was probably like 96, maybe around that time.
So let's put it into perspective, right? You said it started in 93, right? 93 as a whole in terms of hip hop, right? We're looking at, you know, Wu-Tang. Out here in the West was Freestyle Fellowship. You had Souls of Mischief, you know, Gangstar. But in the midst of I don't want to say mainstream because all those artists are super dope, and the underground was the mainstream. Tamar had said it several times. But in the midst of all that, there's this booming DJ scene. And in terms of geographical location, in my understanding, I'm from Southern California. right? I'm like 30 minutes away, 30 minutes south of LA, right?
Okay.
But I understand that the Bay Area was huge for the DJ scene, right? So let's put that into perspective for people listening, right? 93, we figure, yeah, all this, rap music, but there's this DJ scene bubbling, and it could be the East Coast as well. I mean, not to throw anything out the window, but let's talk about that scene in terms of mixtapes, in terms of whether you're in an actual battle or in someone's garage, just going off on the turntables.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit, and who you might have been hanging out with right around 93, 94, 95.
Right. I mean, back then it wasn't like a big mixtape scene. I want to say like from like 86 to about 90, 86 to like 90 was a big sound system scene. So like every DJ crew would have like their own lights and sound. It was almost like the whole Jamaican sound system thing.
Yeah.
And so like we would have battles in these halls or like a hotel convention center, and there'd be like 6 or 7 different sound systems, and we would battle each other. Everyone would go like 30 minutes each. You would bring your own sound, your own lights, and you would have to rock the party basically. But all I really cared about was because every crew basically had someone who could cut it up, you know what I mean? And I was always there to watch that person, you know what I mean? But that was basically the scene back then. It was from 86 to about 90 was a big sound system scene. And then after that, became like more like car shows, you know what I mean? That type of a battle circuit. And then it became the whole DMC type of thing, you know what I mean? But I was fortunate enough to like, get to see like, Mixmaster Mike, Qbert, Disc, and just, see them come up, you know what I mean? And just being these hometown heroes, being able to travel to New York and battle and win, and then go to the Worlds and win. And that really gave me hope, and to just be inspired, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's dope. Yo, how did you, well, actually, one quick, you talked about rocking a party, you were rocking a party, and you were more rapping. So I had Mr. Sinister on my show, and he pointed out to me, he shared that, DJs, in his opinion, DJs need to know how to rock a party. Like, what's your thoughts on that? As that was a DJ that said he's just a scratch DJ. Like, what's your opinion on that topic?
I mean, I think back then you had to know how to do it all. Like, you had to rock a party, you had to be able to DJ at a wedding, you know what I mean? And also cut it up. But I feel like in this day and age, there's so many niches now. You know what I mean? You got bedroom scratch DJs. You got guys who just make beats on, live with the live drumming. Like, there's just so many different outlets, you know what I mean? But I think if you're like a well-rounded DJ, then yeah, for sure you got to know how to rock a party, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, it's a good point about the niches, and there's so many different. I mean, it's so many different little categories now. It seems like to me,
there is. Yeah, there is definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And we find, okay, so let's talk about this, right? So it got to the point, right? I'll mention a few names, but we all know it got to the point, and that's why I brought up like 93, 94, 95 era where, right, we all know the DJs were pushed away, right? The DJs were somewhat not needed anymore. Then we get this, what some of us underground heads consider a hero, Dave Paul and Bomb Hip Hop, right? Where it's like, all right, and I'm not giving him all the credit, but that's how I heard of all these DJs. Right? Okay. He put out a compilation of a bunch of DJs, and that's that's where ISP or Invisbl Skratch Piklz, the Skratch Hamsters, Skratch Perverts, A-Track, and Flair, and all these DJs just came out, right?
Right.
Talk about. I mean, you never DJed for I'm assuming you never DJ'd for a group, right? To say where it's like, you know, I know Mixmaster Mike is on a higher level in terms of Beastie Boys. That's a big name, right? But like, let's say like a Mark Love DJ'd for a Far Side. Did you ever DJ for a group, or was it always you just on the turntables on your own?
Yeah, I was in a group called Third Sight, and we had put out 4 albums like back in the day. You know, but it was, you know, back then it was so different. Oh wow, you got the tape. That's crazy.
The gold tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gold
Wow. Tape. Oh, that's hard to find right there. But yeah, I mean, you know, back then it was hard to network. You know what I mean? It was hard to be heard outside of your city. You know what I mean? Now it's so easy with YouTube and, you know, social media. But back then you had to actually go and travel and all that. So, you know, like we weren't able to like really do a lot of shows outside of like the Bay Area, to be honest, you know.
So it's just more like in your areas where you were doing all that. So yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. How did, and I know Smooth Tone and there's little ins and outs and all that, but how did Third Sight form?
I was going to college, you know, and back then I was really into making beats, more than scratching actually. I was looking for MCs to work with, and I met Jihad basically going to college, and you know, we just started working. We had good chemistry right off the bat, yeah, like, you know, back then you actually had to go in the studio, book studio time, record on reel to reel or ADAT, and you know, spend money, you know what I mean, just to record. So you know, we all put our money together, recorded an album, put out vinyl, and you know, we just tried to do it that way. And it was crazy, man, because I feel like a lot of our music that we recorded back then was a little bit too advanced. You know what I mean? People don't understand the music, I think, and maybe now it's more acceptable and it's more like digestible, but I think back then it was like it went over people's heads. You know what I mean?
You brought up a good point where yeah, I would feel the same way, or I feel the same way, where the music is a little advanced, was too advanced at that time, because I know people that are just like, they come across it. A friend of mine from work came across it and was like, yeah, dude, this probably came out a couple years ago. And I'm like, nah, dude, this was 90s shit, right?
Right.
But that also goes for even the DJ stuff, right? I mean, I wanna get into the production stuff, but I wanna stay on this topic too. So in terms of like even names, right? I'm gonna bring this up. And we live in an era where we look at things funny. For example, I just saw an interview with Cannabis and Nems. And when Nems was kind of saying, when Cannabis says, yeah, you ain't got the skills to eat, you know, someone's ass like me. Back then, eating someone's ass was more like, I'm going to eat your ass in this battle. And it wasn't, nobody questioned it. You say that today, people are like, yo, you're a suspect. So in terms of like, I'll put it this way. This is where I'm going with it. When it comes to Invisbl, Skratch, Piklz, even to the record label, Galactic Butt Hairs, right? Stuff like that, or Hot Sauce in the Dick Hole.
Yeah.
Which is a mixtape with Qbert and yourself, right?
Right.
Smegma Returns, which is, you know, the VHS, right? Like,
wow.
Stuff like that, I would assume would have been like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Why, you know, just the names and all that, to where maybe now it's more like, all right, that's on some comedy shit. Did you see that pushback in terms of using certain names and comedic approaches to that?
I mean, a lot of that was Qbert's doing. You know, that's a lot of his humor. Mine too as well. But you know, like back then, I think we were just more punk rock. We didn't care. You know what I mean? We were like, fuck it, let's just do whatever we want. Let's call it the most absurd name, and if people like it, they like it. You know what I mean? If they don't, they don't. It was almost like the Beastie Boys when they were doing that, you know, the cookie push shit.
Oh, the cookie push stuff, yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, like that was pretty much, you know, our angle. We were like, fuck it, let's just do whatever we want to do, man.
I think
you know what I mean?
shit was more accepted, that, like you said, back then. I mean, people weren't like, oh, pause. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know,
right.
there was a lot of bandwidth to do some weird shit back in the day with hip hop and music. I mean, you had the goats, you had fucking, you know, there's a lot of weird, of dope. I mean, De La Soul, rest in peace, I mean, like, that Daisy shit, that was some crazy shit.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, look at Prince Paul. He did the weirdest stuff, man.
Handsome,
and
like fucking, yeah. So
yeah.
I think there was more probably more bandwidth to do that back
Let's
then.
go back to the production. And the group, I guess, right? Because okay, so the group is yourself, Jihad, Dufunk, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, both of you were doing production?
Yeah, so I would do half of the beats, and then Dufunk would do the other half of the beats.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, follow up. I don't know if you have a question about
that. I mean, I just want to know, like, how'd you get into that? Like, as far as, because a lot of DJs that focus on scratching and cutting and turntablism, you don't really hear about them getting into the production. I mean, and so, you know, and your production is fire. So, like,
thank you.
What was and you said you were doing that before that. I think you said you were doing that before the DJ. And so, like, how was that? How did that come?
Well, no, I got into scratching first, and then I got into making beats. But I would always kind of like try to, like, you know, divvy up my time and focus on scratching for, you know, 2 months, and then I get into making beats and, you know, focus on that for 2 months. But I don't know, like it just seemed like that was just sort of the roadmap for most of us back in the day. It was like, you know, you got into DJing, that was sort of the gateway drug, and then you went into production. You know, like I looked at guys like DJ Shadow, he kind of did that. You know, DJ Muggs kind of did that. And so, you know, I just thought, okay, this is what you do. You get into DJ battles, and then you graduate, and you either get into music production or you get into radio or something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, like making beats. Like I think for me, I would make beats, and then I would just love to cut over it. You know what I mean? But there's certain beats where it's like, all right, this beat needs an MC. Like, you know what I mean? This beat needs something to make it come alive. You know what I mean? And so I would stash beats that were for MCs, and I would stash beats that were just strictly for like instrumentals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was my follow-up question, because and I was talking to Tamal about this. I'm like, you know, for a scratch DJ, especially, and I don't know if I should say this because I don't want to, not that I offend anybody, but I want to, this is how I saw it, right? A lot of Bay Area DJs, it was super fast scratching, right? It was different than what everyone else was doing, which is why I gravitated to it so much, right?
Okay.
So when I was like, okay, and I'll be honest, I came across your music, your DJ skills through Third Sight. That's how I knew of you, and then everything else came after that, and I was like, holy shit. But in terms of DJing, right? You figure, all right, either whether you're battling or just showing off skills, to DJ, you kind of need more of an up-tempo beat. So I was kind of like, well, wait a minute. With projects that you have with like Private Peep Show, Widowmaker and all that, right? The beats are a lot slower. Third Sight, the beats are slower.
Right.
How did that connect, right? Because again, in terms of DJ, you're rocking a crowd and it has to be more up tempo. But then the beats, when you come with the beats, I mean, and we'll talk about the Jay Cyanide and the Substance album in a bit. But that contrast of being a DJ, being more on the up tempo side, and then when you turn around and okay, I got an MC, now the beats are just on a lower, smooth tip, raw.
Right. Man, I don't know. Like I think I've always loved slower tempo beats. You know what I mean? And you know, like listening to like, you know, like Portishead stuff. You know that.
Oh yeah, okay.
That really let me know, okay, like there is an audience for this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Because even before that, I was like, man, this is way too dark. I like it's gonna scare people, you know. But I mean, honestly, I think that's why I was never really a good club DJ, because I didn't really enjoy those fast beats. You know what I mean? Like you know, like when the whole Neptunes era came and the faster, happier stuff. I mean, it was cool, but I just couldn't get into it, and I didn't enjoy DJing anymore at that point. You know, I loved all the slower stuff, and I think that's when you know, like when I found out about you know, like Griselda and them, and they were rhyming over like slower, grimier stuff. You know, that's when I got back into like really listening to hip hop again, because before that, like I stopped listening to hip hop, you know, for a while. I was just listening to instrumental stuff, really, you know. Yeah, I didn't know that there was a whole nother like subgenre of like indie hip hop that was going on. So, you know, like right now I'm like really inspired that, you know, shit's popping, you know.
Damn, that's dope, huh? How did you link up with Jay Cyanide?
With Jay Cyanide,
we got to him. He's on the show, so the project is a banger, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to DJ John Doe. He's from Southern Vanguard Radio. He came into town, and then, you know, we linked up and had some dinner, and I was telling him, you know, part of my gripe is it's really hard for me to find MCs to work with, because they don't know who I am, and they don't hit me back, you know, or if I send them a beat, they never send me back vocals. You know what I mean? I'll wait around for half a year or whatever. So I was just you know, telling them, man, do you know anyone who's serious about this? Like I really want to do this, you know, do this shit. And he was like, yo, my guy Jay Cyanide, man, he's, you know, he'll come through, you know. And so he linked us up through email, and then we talked on the phone. You know, and then we just went back and forth. You know, I would send him beats, and maybe like a week later he would send me back his verses, you know.
That's
Workflow.
That's dope, but it sucks that you've had to deal with that bullshit as far as like unprofessionalism, which is rampant in hip hop. I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. You know, but I get it though, because now that I'm like meeting more MCs, and they tell me, you know, like every day they get hit up by different producers sending them beats and telling them let's work, and so I'm just one of those other guys, you know, out of 100 other producers that are hitting them up. You know what I mean? So I get it.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because the funny thing is, I'm glad you brought that up, because I never set that aside. Right? You've got both ways, right? You either got an MC trying to reach out to a producer, or an MC trying to reach out to people like us, you know, carrying the culture, save the hip hop culture. Hey, listen to my shit. And the same way we have to sift through and filter through all, like, you know, out of 100, you know, DMs or whatever, there's that diamond in the rough, right? So yeah, it does suck, and I agree with my brother that it does suck that you have to go through that bullshit, but it's dope that out of whatever you had to go through, however long you had to wait, an incredible album came out of it with Jay Cyanide. I mean, that really, I mean, I don't even know if you know, but that was one of our top albums last year that dropped.
Wow, yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Sure. When I saw that, I forgot to, you know, the one joint that you let the lead single off that shit you guys came with.
Oh yeah, yeah. When the wind blows.
Goodness, man. And I was like, what? Like, huh? Like, I didn't see that this combination happening. So I was like, what the fuck is this? And like, it was, and frankly, and I didn't really know too much about the production. Like, I know of you from Invisbl Skratch Pit, but I actually saw. So I want to ask you this: I actually saw you guys at a rave in Connecticut in '95, '90. So, was that a big thing for you guys as far as doing shows? Because like, so at this time the party was so big, the raves were so big, they had like a whole hip hop room, like Skratch, and they had techno room, like they had rooms for everything. So,
Right.
Was that a thing for you guys? I mean, I remember it was like, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean the whole rave scene was like one big circuit. So like if you did one big rave in LA, basically, that like production crew would throw something out on the East Coast. So they would book you out there, and then you do something in like Canada or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a nice little circuit that you could do. Yeah, I mean it was crazy because back then, they would have different rooms, but it was like a big melting pot because you would get these weirdos, drum and bass dudes who were just, I mean, they're probably high out of their minds, but they would be into just the kind of shit we were doing. You know what I mean? And it was a great time back then because those rooms were huge. That was like 5,000 people or whatever. You know what I mean?
It was so big.
Connecticut. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It was a Connecticut, because that was, and the rave party started getting real big, like you said, and I loved all the shit, the drum and bass. So I'd be in all the rooms, like, it was dope. I saw Rock Raider at a rave, same type of thing. So, so like, how long were you guys doing that for?
The rave thing was probably that was like a good 4 years, probably something like that, maybe. You know what I mean? What's weird was when I go to these raves, I would see people breaking. I would see b-boys, and I was like, holy shit, they're breaking again. You know what I mean? Because for a long time, I mean, you wouldn't see that out. You know what I mean? Ever. So yeah, that was a weird melting pot, man.
Yeah, no, it was a weird, especially on the East Coast. It was like you'd have like grimy dudes with like hoodies on, fucking masks up and shit, ready to rob you. Then you have candy, glow sticks, and stars, and whatever the fuck, and Piklz vapor rub and all that shit. Like, word, right? Like, and then they had the b-boys, helmets on, doing heads. It was wild times. I hope that you were like, yeah, that's where I first kind of remember you guys from.
Okay. Yeah.
That's crazy. I like that you got, or he brought it up, because to me, and this is going to lead up to my next question. To me, I think we all kind of went through that phase where we were kind of tired of the, no disrespect to the pioneers or like, your gurus and Souls Mischiefs and all that. But it got to the point where it's like, all right, is this really it? Right. Tamal, I know you said like in the 2000s, you were off the grid. D-Styles, you said you stopped listening to hip hop and you were just instrumentals. On my end, when I can't really recall the years, but it got to the point again where I'm like, there's nothing else that's going to excite me. So I was all DJ shit. I mean, I remember up until 2014, to be honest with you, I caught you a few times at the Low End Theory here in LA.
Oh shit!
I think the last time was maybe Bus Driver, Daddy Kev. Can't remember who else was there, but
okay.
But what I'm trying to set up here is that DJ era, right? You had again your Invisbl Skratch Piklz. You had your Bulletproof Skratch, you had the Skratch Perverts. Yeah. Right? Yeah, X-Man, right? Just all over the place. I mean, from the outside looking in, to me going to these all DJ, all 45s, maybe one MC would get on the stage, but it's really all DJ sets.
Right.
It took me back to a place where I had never been, but I've read about. And what I mean by that is, 72, 73, 74, Bronx, where you'd come out and just see the DJ and the B-boys were dead, it took me to that place. So what you guys did is took me mentally to that place. From a DJ standpoint, if you can recollect what that energy was like, and have you seen that type of energy post that time frame?
Are you talking about at Low End Theory?
No. Just in general, that span of like 96 to like 2000 or so, where the DJ shit was just huge.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, that was like the heyday of it. You know what I mean? Like, we could actually headline a show. You know what I mean? We were out in Europe headlining a show. You know what I mean? I remember being out in Spain with Rock Raider and X-Men and them and the Beat Nuts, or you know what I mean? We would share stages with them and MOP and, you know, cats like that. And I mean, it's a huge honor, you know what I mean? And it's amazing that we're all equals like that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like now in hip hop, like a lot of cats don't look at it the same way. You know what I mean? And so yeah, back then it was a beautiful time, man. It was way different. You know what I mean? The golden era, right? Is what they call it. But.
Yeah, and it's funny because depending on who you ask, right? They'll say the golden era was this, the golden era was that.
Right.
Let's get into some technicalities.
Yeah.
We'll get into tools and you know, new age tools that people use or whatever. But what do you currently rock in terms of you know, your favorite turntable? What do you like to use? And beat machine. What are you working with right now? Or your favorite?
Right now I use a Stanton turntable, and the turntable that I like it needs to have this thing called ultra pitch, where it goes -50 to +50, ultra slow to ultra fast, just because I use the turntable to make music. So like when you listen to like the Jay Cyanide album, a lot of those sounds I'm actually using the turntable, and I'm actually scratching that in. You know what I mean? So I'm not actually using a sampler. Some of it is like, you know, like the drum programming is, but a lot of the samples I'm doing it live because I want that live element. Like I feel like that's missing in today's production. Like if you listen to the old, you know, old Run DMC, like the Rick Rubin stuff, like they were actually cutting those sounds, you know, the samples. You know, they were actually manually looping that on 2 turntables, or, you know, or whatever. So I feel like that's missing in hip hop. Everything is so in the grid and perfect. You know what I mean? That I prefer to just manually do it. You know, so I use the turntable more as an instrument in that way. But I also use Ableton to record.
Okay. All right.
Also, but like back in the day, I started out on the Ensoniq EPS sampler, and then I got into the ASR10, SB12, you know, all that kind of stuff, drum machines and all that. So, yeah.
So this is a good kind of lead into what I wanted to ask. Like, you guys are, you know, I guess sponsored. You guys do a lot with technology as far as like the new stuff coming in. You don't really shy away from it, and you seem to use it in a way though that still keeps the values of real DJing intact. So talk about your views on all of this, you know, the technology that's coming out and all of these gadgets and gizmos that, you know, make it a little bit easier for somebody for me, whatever, to start and do stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I basically use it to my advantage. You know, like back in the day, we had to tape up the record just to find certain spots on the record, just for sounds. And now, you know, you can just cue point everything now. And so, you know, in that sense, things are a lot easier. Back then we had to press up show vinyl, you know what I mean, just to rock our shows or whatever. And now you can make your own show kit, you know, in Ableton or Pro Tools, bounce it down and use it in, you know, whatever digital workstation you're using. You know, but I still use, like, I'm not doing any shortcuts as far as like changing up my style with technology. Like I'm embracing it, you know what I mean? And I'm using it to my advantage, but it hasn't changed my sound. You know what I mean? It's only made me work smarter and not harder. You know what I mean?
There we go. So we've talked about numerous times, man, about how the technology is there. It's like you use it to your advantage. I mean, graphic design or whatever, and like whatever it is, you use it to your advantage, but you still have your core ways that you work, and you're just making it, just using it to be easier. So that's the thing we've talked about. We bang the drum on it about, like, just unfortunately, maybe you can talk about it. The technology seems like a shortcut for a lot of people.
Right. No, definitely. I mean, I think if anything, like, this new technology has helped get out all these ideas that have been in my head, and now I'm actually able to execute them and do them live now. So it's like you drive and you get these ideas that will pop up in your head, and you're like, damn, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. And then now with all this new technology, with this, I don't know if you've kept up with the whole, like, with the stem stuff, where you could take out drums, you could just isolate bass lines. I mean, all that shit is crazy. So just imagine what music's going to sound like in 2 years from now. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it seems like every time we open up Instagram, we open up a book, or we hear something on it, it's something new, right? As soon as I'm real old school, right? And I've said it before, where it's like, it took me a long time to accept CDs, to get rid of my tapes. Then it took me a long time to accept streaming. It took me a long time to accept someone using a laptop when they DJ.
Yeah.
So right now, as soon as I understand I'm older, right? I'm in my 40s, and I figure, all right, I'm going to accept it. And as soon as I accept it, a whole new thing comes out, and it's like, wow. So it's just, I kind of put my guard down and be like, you know what, let's just do it. Because, and I'll give the heads up to my brother right here, is because I'm more anal about that kind of stuff, right? Again, because I love seeing what it takes for you or any other DJ to cue up something without, right, the actual buttons and pre-cued stuff, or just like you said, you would have to pre-record stuff on vinyl to have it for a show.
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole stress within itself. And now you could just, that's all programmed in. So that's super dope that you bring that up and that you embrace it. Again, because of the conversation I had with my brother, it was like, yeah, these DJs that already know how to do it all on vinyl, now with this new technology, they're light years ahead anyway. So now I personally accept that.
Right.
That's what's up. So
I was. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, I was the same way. Like when that new technology came out, where you could control MP3s, with records. I was kind of skeptical too. I was like, there's weird latency. It doesn't feel right. And you see dudes like scratching on CDs or CDJs, and so, like, it took me a while to really get open to that. You know what I mean? But, like, once I could see that, like, oh, you could use it to do this, you could do that with it. Oh man, like, it was game over. Like, now I can make these ideas come to life. You know what I mean?
That's what's up.
All the shit that's been, like, in your head, where you're like, damn, if I have this,
exactly,
I can do this, and then here it comes. I mean, so it makes sense.
Right.
It's just like, again, keeping the core of, like you said, you didn't lose your production style. You didn't lose, like, your fucking steez while using the technology.
Right.
Yeah. One question I wanted, before, we don't have too much time left. The whole teaching thing, Beat Junkies Institute of Sound. I mean, like, how did that come about? Why? I mean, I think it's a great service that, like, actually isn't talked about enough, unfortunately. I mean, I didn't know about it until recently. I'll keep it on it. So,
okay.
How did that all come about for you guys, and just why?
Yeah. I mean, like, all of us have been DJing for a good amount of years, and as we're older now, we don't really enjoy being in the club and DJing. You know what I mean? And so, like, we feel like at this day and age, we're actually better teaching this and actually, passing this art form down to the next generation, or else if we don't, it's just going to get lost. You know what I mean? And especially with technology now and all that. So, we decided to open up the school. It was about 5 years ago, I think now. And yeah, I mean, it's been crazy, because it's actually made me a lot sharper as a DJ because I've had to relearn stuff. We've had to like, you know, really science it out, you know, kind of figure things out that way. And it's been inspiring just, you know, when you teach someone and you actually see that light bulb go off, you know what I mean? Like, and you're actually connecting with the student, you know what I mean? And it's also pretty scary because we have a bunch of kids that we teach and they pick up on it so fast, man. Like, you know, like a sponge, right? Like, I want to say, as far as the kids, ages like 9 to like 13, and they pick up way faster than the adults. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's scary, man. It's crazy.
That's so dope, man. Yeah, I mean, and I think it's a great service you guys are doing. I mean, it was all on the website. Wow, this is an awesome thing that's going on, and it's you guys have an actual building. I mean, a place to, you know, it's not virtual, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you ever come out to LA, man, you gotta stop by, bro.
Say less.
Yeah, you know what's sad is I'm like 30 minutes away from LA, and I've never.
Oh shit!
That yeah, you can pull my hip hop card out.
I gotta come out. Well, I'm trying to come out for Rhyme Fest, so that's like if the stars align. So maybe. Shit.
There you go.
I got a question regarding that. You know, do you? And I'm assuming you will. I mean, this is kind of a dumb question, but I'm assuming you have some kind of criteria or a lesson plan that you plan out pre-class, right? Before you have a class? Yeah. Or is it you just go in there and be like, we're just going to organically do this?
No. I mean, we have a whole curriculum. You know what I mean? A whole curriculum. You know, from learning to mix to, you know, beat juggling to trick mixing to scratching. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, our whole thing is this, man. Like, we want you to learn on records, turntables, and a mixer. Before you go to, like, you know, Serato and all that other stuff, you know. It's almost like learning to drive stick shift because you could drive automatic all day, but you want to learn how to drive stick shift first.
Shut it down. There it is.
That's it right there. That's woo.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Because we say that all the time, right? And I don't want to say anybody, but really, I mean, anybody can just be like, all right, I'm just going to push a few buttons and hey, you're a DJ. Hey, boom, the music's coming out of the speaker and it sounds all right. Everything's queued up for you and it sounds good. But I'm super glad you said that. That's beautiful. I'm going to try to make it out, actually. I mean, again, the fact that I'm 30 minutes away is...
Yeah, you need to go out there.
Yeah, man, come out.
Yeah, you better go out. You better fucking go out there. I mean, I think it's dope what you said about, like, you know, it keeps you on point because, you know, when my mentors told me, like, when you have to teach something, then you have to be nice with it. Like, you can't, you know, you got to be on point. Like, you're sharing that, so you got to be, you know, you got to have it, like, you got to be clean with it because then it's going to be like, oh, the fuck I'm paying you for.
Yeah, exactly. You know what's scary too is like a lot of our students, you know, like they've been there 1 or 2 years, they're actually catching up to us, and it's pretty damn scary because they're able to spar with us and be on point, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's what's supposed to happen. You see a lot of kung fu movies. I mean, like, fucking, that's what happens, right? Like the fucking
student becomes a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's each one teach one. That's the whole shit, man. That's why it's dope. I do want to try to spotlight this more, man. I think it's important, man. Like, there's a DJ school in the Southern California area, fucking being taught by, and you should fucking go. Like, shit.
Yeah, because it factors everything that we stand for, right? You know, handing the torch down to those coming up. Because we can stand here and I'm going to talk about myself right now. I can sit here or stand here and say, like, yeah, the turntablism that I grew up with or that I heard when, you know, 90s and all that, it's dead now, and there's only a certain amount of people that do it. No one's doing it now. But then what? You guys are actually hold the school, have the curriculum, handing it down to those coming up, which in turn helps the preservation of said element.
Right. Right.
We appreciate you for doing that. Everybody.
Thank you.
We're gonna run out of time, and I wanna. We got questions for days, but I do want to bring up the latest album that has come out, which is "He Who Laughs Last" with Substance.
Yeah.
Give us a little breakdown of that album and how that came about.
So with Substance, I met Substance because I did an album with Noah the Flood, and Substance was a guest on that album. So you know, we just kept in touch afterwards, and then you know, I just hit him up and I was like, hey man, would you be down to build like on something, one song, EP, album, whatever. Let's just try, you know what I mean? And he was down. I sent him a few beats, and you know, we just chipped at it slowly, you know what I mean? That album has been done for a while. It was just, you know, the time to press it up and everything, artwork, you know, all that stuff that happens behind the scenes, you know what I mean? Took a while, but yeah, man, like we met for the first time like in person like maybe about 6 months ago. He came out to LA for a show, and we shot that one video that with the J Royale. So yeah, like it's like a trip to like work with these people, you know, through email, and then to actually meet them in person, you know what I mean? It's just weird. Yeah.
What's the difference? Again, I know we're running out of time. I'm assuming when you guys were doing the Third Sight stuff, you were all in the same studio, assuming.
Yeah.
What's the difference there? Shed light on that. Working, brainstorming all together, as opposed to, hey, I got this beat. Like you said earlier, I have to find the perfect MC. Because to me, again, both albums, a lot of albums, even with Noah the Flood, I mean, the connection between MC and the beats, and your beats, has to be perfect, right? These days we hear a lot of just stuff put together, pushed out, sounds rushed, doesn't seem right.
Right. You
could fool me and tell me that you both were in the studio or together making this album, brainstorming, and I would believe it, just because the chemistry on audio, you know, in audio is perfect. What's the difference between being in a recording studio with everybody brainstorming as opposed to doing it by email and all digital?
Yeah. I mean, you know, first off, the energy is way different if you guys are all in the studio together and you're able to give feedback and ideas, you know, right off the bat. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like maybe I got lucky or something because everything's been through email, and I don't give any like direction as far as, yo, come in here, you know, rhyme 16 bars here. Like I just let the MC do what they do, and I think I've gotten pretty lucky, you know what I mean, as far as just that natural chemistry. But I don't know, man. Like I think at the end of the day, like as a producer, like when you get vocals back, that's really when the work starts. You know what I mean? Because then you have to kind of mold that into a song. You know what I mean? And you start to sequence and arrange things. You know, you start to put you know, movie samples here and scratches there, and maybe it needs some kind of vocal hook or whatever. So I think that's where you kind of have to like trust your ear. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean that's really where the work starts. Is once you get the vocals back, then you start to really produce the song and make it an actual song. You know what I mean?
Both dope projects, man. I mean, those both, like you told me, you're gonna like Substance one. I'm like, I did. Yeah, they're both fire projects, man. So
Thank you, man.
Appreciate what you've done on both fronts. You know, as far as the DJ and production.
Thank you. Hey, you guys got to tell me who to check out. Like who you guys been listening to. Maybe after this or whatever. But.
Oh yeah.
That's
easy.
No problem.
Yeah,
we'll shoot you a long ass list of shit.
Please do.
Yeah, we'll make your head explode. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're eager for that, man, because there's a lot of people, trust me, and I'm sure you've heard it, that's like, yeah, no new, the new music out, 95% of the music out today is whack. No, I don't want to hear it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, honestly, the last 2 or 3 years have gotten me super hyped for this, for rap music. I'm gonna say rap music, right?
Right.
Because it's been a lot of good music. There's a lot of trash, don't get me wrong, but man, it's dope. So yeah, I have no problem. You'll see us in the DM with the list. There's no
asking you shall receive.
So we have to cut it, right? I do appreciate you coming on. Before we cut everything, I want to make sure that you shed light, if you can, if you want, on whatever, if anything, you're working on now.
Yeah, I got it's getting pressed up right now, but probably in like 2 months, I got an album with Deploying the Legend coming out. But yeah, look out for that. 2 months.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another spitter. All right, cool.
Yeah,
well, again, if you guys don't know, right, it goes back to Third Sight. Golden Shower Hour was the first album. There's 2 follow-up albums, right?
We did 3 albums. Yeah, 3 albums after that.
Yeah. Now, okay, let me ask you this. Final question. There's an album, Orchid. What is it? Orchids.
Oh, Orchids and Corpses.
Yeah, is that unreleased stuff, or what was that album?
That was a bunch of old stuff that we recorded on my 4-track that never came out. So the quality's really, really bad on it. But it was just stuff that, like, yeah, wow, you got that? I don't even have that, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's well, I got it from Jihad.
Okay.
Really dusty, but I'm a fan. Like, I love all that 4-track dusty sound shit. I love it.
Right. Yeah. So that was like stuff we recorded like in my room back in the day on the 4-track that, we had sitting around, and we're like, man, let's just put it out and whatever. You know what I mean? So.
So again, Third Sight, Invisbl, Skratch, Piklz, Beat Junkies, the list of instrumental albums. You had your mixtapes with 8-track. Again, instrumentals, all that. Pete D Styles catalog. I appreciate you coming on. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Man, I just want to say what you guys are doing is really dope, man. I love the concept too. Like, you're out in the West, you're out on the East Coast. You got 2 different perspectives too. That shit is dope, man.
Oh, man, appreciate you.
I appreciate you even cut that. Yeah, because we've talked about that, right? The 2 different. We're working on a documentary too to kind of bridge those together. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
That's dope. Hell yeah, man.
Oh, so good. So I appreciate you, man. It was good building and got to know more about you. So I think it's always informative shit. So very happy. Thanks to everybody joining in, man. It was good to show here.
Yeah, thank you for everybody who tuned in, man. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
I appreciate y'all.
Stay in touch. I made. Now I definitely gotta try to get the Ryan Fest. I'll try to come out to the school, man. You do like a little thing, showcase the school. That'd be fat.
Yeah, let me know, bro. Let me know.
All right, we're locked in.
Brother. Hey, I appreciate you. D-Style tomorrow. I love always for you coming on, brother.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate you guys, man.
All right, everybody be good.
Salute. Peace.